I'm obsessed with the British accent.
Right, okay.
I don't know what it is. I'm going to London for the first time later this year.
Okay.
I'm what I don't know what I can't speak it properly, but
it's not bad.
Shut up.
That's not bad.
Really?
Yeah. The thing is, it kind of sounds when American people do an English accent, at first I think we don't sound like that, and I go, oh God, we actually really do sound like that.
But everything anyone with and granted there's different dialects which I can't tell the difference in, but everything that comes out of anyone with a proper British accent sounds just amazing. If I could snap my fingers and I could change it, I would do it.
Yeah.
What if I come to London? Do people go, man, look, an American accent, how cool? There's no way that happens, right?
I mean, I don't want your listeners to hate me.
We will not hate you.
Okay.
You have a British accent.
It's probably, I don't think we get that excited when we hear an American accent. I guess it's kind of like a little bit exotic, but we're probably not, I don't know.
Is it somewhat common or not?
Yeah, it's not uncommon. See, the thing is, I live in London, and so there's all sorts of people from, all over the place in London. But I guess if you went to like a small village in Scotland or in the north of England or somewhere, you might blow someone's mind.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a small village, wow the town. George, of course, your album, which you're currently pushing, is you're Staying at Tamara's. You've probably answered this question 1,000 times in the UK. Who's Tamara?
So you're going to love this as well because it comes back to the accents. So I pronounce it Tamara.
Tamara.
But I could be completely wrong.
Goodness gracious.
I quite like the way you say it.
I've been saying Staying at Tamara's for
Let's go with
long.
that. I'll call it that for this interview.
Who is Tamara then?
So what I did was I had a month. I could take myself anywhere that I wanted to go. And I like to do that to kind of get a bit of inspiration for an album. It's nice to meet new people, see new things, and just be outside of my comfort zone a bit. So I decided to go to Barcelona for a month. And it's kind of like I've always loved Barcelona, but I've only ever spent a day or two there. And I was like, well, if I can go and live there for a month, that would be incredible. And then, when you have those ideas just as you're drifting off at night, and normally you ignore them. So I had this idea. I was like, well, why stay in a hotel while you're there when what you could do is find a stranger on the internet and go and live in their spare room for the month. And instead of
we're not talking Airbnb. You rented, you stayed with the total
Yeah. So it was like this, instead of just getting the apartment to myself, I agreed to live there while they were there as well. And I kind of, in my head, I thought, well, it might be interesting. They might be cool. It'll be nice to have someone in the city that can show me around. And then I also thought, and if they're unhinged, if they're crazy, I can always just check out and go into a hotel if needs be. And so I landed, and my host was this girl, Tamara. And I kind of got shown up to this apartment. And it wasn't until I got there that I thought, why have you done this, man? I just, George, why did you do this? And then Tamara and her friends, they were musicians, they were artists, designers, journalists, and they kind of worked Monday to Friday. And I wouldn't really see them. But they all used her place as this kind of social hub in the evening. And so I found myself in the mix of this little scene or the little circle of friends. And it was just incredible. I didn't see them all that much, but my time in Barcelona was so important for myself and for the album. And I linked that to having the key to Tamara's place. So I thought just the best name for the album was Staying at Tamara's.
Now she must, and her circle of friends must be just through the moon. Like this album is based on...
The thing is, Spanish people are very cool. And that's a generalization, but I kind of rang her up as if I wanted to run it by her. I don't want to scare her. So I kind of wanted to ask, do you mind if I call the album Staying at Tamara's? And I expected her to go, oh my God, that's so flattering. Yeah, of course. And she was like... Yeah, cool. So I was like, I kind of thought, oh, maybe she hasn't quite understood what I meant. But she completely knew. She just didn't. She was like, yeah, cool, man.
Just, whatever, George.
Yeah,
sure.
Just why are you still contacting me?
Like if you said, hey, I'm going to call, you stayed at JoJo's. Like, hey, I'm going to call the album Staying at Joe. I'd have been like, I'd called everybody I knew. Hey, George.
Yeah. I think as time went on, she got behind it and she got excited when it got released and she asked for a copy of the album and that was all really sweet. So yeah, I think she likes it.
Man, well, apparently it worked because to my understanding, best-selling UK album 2018.
Yeah.
So are you going next album back to Tamara's?
Maybe it's a winning formula. I don't know. Or at least she'll have me. Do you know what? Actually, I haven't shared this story, but I actually went back to Barcelona since and she was like, look, if ever you're in town, just, hit me up. You can stay around here. So I went back into the spare room that I'd had and I woke up in the morning. I couldn't open the door. It had locked on me. and I ripped the door handle off. Now, that's not saying anything about my strength. I just think like this old, door in Barcelona, I jammed it and I ripped the door handle off. So apologies, Tamara, if you're listening.
So she probably went back into the room and was like, man, what happened to this handle? And
yeah.
And you didn't leave a note, nothing like you like.
I did. I texted her saying, just give me the bill. Because it was like, half the door was off.
Maybe she won't let you back for a third.
No, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
George, you live in London. I'm just trying to get all the details, everything about you. You're from Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
Is that right? England?
Yeah.
What is this? What's this place like?
So Hertfordshire it's a large place. So I actually live in the town called Hertford. So I live in this place called Hertford. Well, that's where I grew up. It's beautiful. There's a lot of nice pubs. There's a lot of rivers, a lot of kind of fields. There's 2 train lines to London. Very handy, very convenient. Lovely people. Come and visit. I'll give you the tour. There's only a population of about 25,000 people, 30,000 people. It's quite small.
Is the town, are they just all abuzz with George Ezra stayed here? This is where George grew up, that kind of...
I don't know. Do you know what? The sweetest thing about it all is they're all very cool. And I think people either are annoyed with the amount I'm on their TV screens and their radio stations. I think that there's half the town on that camp. And then there's a lot of people, I feel like there's goodwill behind me. It's very sweet. People are kind of excited for me, is how it feels.
So my initial statement, George Ezra stayed here. They'll be like, oh, God, him again? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
George, you've been on the road a ton. You tour all over. As we tape this countdown, you're probably on the road somewhere else. Who knows? Give me a crazy road story.
A crazy road story.
And I'll tell you right now who has had the best road stories. It's a guy that's a fan of yours, and you're probably a fan of him. Tedder and the guys of One Republic.
Amazing. Yeah.
They seem like conservative, chill dudes, which you do too.
Yeah.
But the wildest stuff, I've talked to them for years. They have a septic tank breaks on a tour bus. They leave a band member in another country.
Yeah. I would say as a rule of thumb, if you're listening to this, anyone that you would assume has a rock and roll lifestyle, they're chamomile tea in bed before 10 p.m. Anyone that you think is quite beige, quite vanilla, quite safe, they're going mad. They're losing their mind.
You're
on a
wild
basis.
man, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm not getting that. So I'm trying to think of a story. One that springs to mind is after a gig. I can't remember how this came about, but somebody gave us 2 jars of unlabeled moonshine. Can I share this kind of story?
Yeah.
Is that okay? And as a rule, we probably, we wouldn't drink alcohol that a stranger had given us, especially unlabeled moonshine in America.
Was it like I'm picturing like an old, like a mayonnaise jar?
Yeah, one of the huge jars, absolutely. And kind of sat on the tour bus for a second and no one touched it. And then one night, and I don't know why it had to be this night, we were crossing the border into Canada, and we just finished the 2 jars completely. And we were kind of, when like after a few drinks, your kind of tolerance goes up and you're kind of unaware of what you're doing. And I ended up mixing, it was kind of like half orange juice and this moonshine. And then we did the border control. And the fear of God was put in us because they're quite kind of intimidating
strict,
places anyway. Well, this is it. You get out and they're just doing their job, obviously, and they're trying to protect their country. And we stayed out. And like schoolboys that are about to be in trouble, it's like, straighten up. Do I look all right? Do I look straight? I'm going to get through, aren't I? I'm going to get through. And there's all of us lined up, rosy cheeks. And man, when you wake up the next day feeling great, and it's all just because you're drunker than when you went to bed. And it lasted, luckily the next day was a day off. I would never do this the day before a gig, I promise. But yeah, that was that's one that stands out. And I'm fairly sure that was the night that one of the band members, and I won't embarrass them, he ran into a lamppost that night, and we had quite an important TV appearance the next week. So there's some footage of one of the band with half his head kind of gouged open.
So I guess the moral to the whole story is don't drink something that somebody gives you in a random unmarked container.
As a rule, if someone that you don't know gives you an alcohol that's unlabeled, leave it be.
There we go. All right. True or false, George? I don't know if this has any truth to it whatsoever. You signed a record deal after uploading a video to YouTube. Now, but was it after one video or multiple? Because I heard it was just you put one video up.
Yeah.
And boom, there you go.
Yeah, so what happened, and I don't know why, I can't question it too much. It's happened and it's cool. But I got to Bristol, so that's where I studied, and there was these guys had set up this thing called the Bristol Couch, and they had bought an inflatable sofa, but it was quite a posh inflatable sofa, so it was like quite hardy.
Bristol being the music, is that the school?
So Bristol's the city.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, Bristol's city in the west of England, and that's where I headed, and these guys had this kind of inflatable sofa. and they would put it in different places around the town, and people would perform on it. And they asked if I would do it, and I'd never done anything like this. I was at the time, I was doing open mic nights and just kind of keeping myself to myself, trying to figure out what I was doing.
And where was this couch? In somebody's house or like a club?
No, so they would take it round. So the one I did was up in like a public park.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And so I uploaded that. They uploaded that, and then I got an email from somebody that said they worked at a major record label, and I thought it was a hoax, of course, because I think the only people that had seen the video I was related to, it's that kind of like, oh, isn't he doing great? That kind of thing. And then just the nature of it is, if you meet one person, essentially a lot of the record labels in the UK are on the same street in London. And if you meet one of them, they all want to meet you because they can't be seen to be missing out on something. And so I spent about 2 months meeting every record label I could imagine. And none of them were interested, really. They were just doing it because they can't be seen to be passing on an opportunity, I think. But one record label gave me an offer, which was really sweet, and that's who I'm still signed to today.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Based on that one video from the couch.
Yeah, so what I had to do at that point then was the one video, you're right, wasn't enough. People can't make big decisions based on one video.
Obviously,
So they would come down to a few shows, and occasionally I would go into the office with my guitar and just play if they were up for that. And yeah, I was kind of willing because you're just you'd be a fool to say no. And I think that's kind of the whole thing of my career so far, if I can say that, is just saying yes to stuff and seeing where you end up. And yeah, that's how it all started.
God, the things I've learned from you so far: don't drink out of a unmarked alcoholic container from a stranger, and always perform on a inflatable blue couch.
Yeah.
Oh my God, George, your album. Let's just cover everything real quick. Update on all this stuff. Staying at Tamara's, just huge. The single Shotgun, huge. Tour, you've been touring around everywhere. I mean, your fans, what do they need to know that they don't know already? Catch me up here.
Oh man, the thing is, something happened early last year, so about a year ago, and I started a few things that I thought I want to keep fans up to date as best as I can. So I do two things. One of them is I sit down and I write a journal each week, and I just do a little A4 piece of paper of everything we're up to. So that keeps them in the loop, I think.
Is it like I ate breakfast?
Yeah, some of it's
Love
personal,
George.
a bit more interesting than that, I'd like to think. And then some of it's like work related. So that's the kind of place, like if I've got some news, they'll find out before anyone else. That kind of thing. But then I'll also let them know what's going on behind the scenes on tour. So that's cool. And then I have a podcast where I sit down with other musicians and talk about what they do, why they do it, how they do it, and all that good stuff. So that's good. Other than that, I think everyone's up to date. I think.
This is the podcast George, Ezra, and Friends, right?
Yes.
All right. You seem like you would be a great interviewer. Like you're good to talk to, like as the interviewee, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
You must love that, right?
I do love it. And the whole reason was I just realized, so I'm signed to this major label, and that's amazing. And it means that once I've written music, there's this whole infrastructure to help me release it. And there's the online department, the radio department, the TV department, the department. And yeah, everything's a conversation. And what that means is there's a lot of help at your fingertips, and that's brilliant. But I realized that I've never been a part of something that relies solely on me getting it done. And I'd always loved the idea of having a podcast, and I love the idea of talking to other musicians. As a kid, I always wanted to have a radio show. So I was kind of like, this is a way that I can try that out. So yeah, I went and bought the microphones. It's only ever me and the guest in the room. And, I let them know that they'll get the final say on the edit. And yeah, I love it. It's kind of like an amazing kind of side hustle, as it were.
His podcast is called George, Ezra, and Friends. You've had some people on your podcast I've had on this countdown. Niall, Years and Years, Ali, who is hilarious.
Yeah.
So, God, yeah. True or false, and I'm looking at you right now, I don't see it. True or false, you're like, what are you talking about, Joe? You have a scar on your forehead from running into a wall at music school.
Yeah, check
I don't
it out.
see this. Where's this? Oh, I kind of do see it. Like, it's over your right eye. Give me that. He's leaning. Give me that.
Sorry, yeah, that doesn't really work on the radio, me going off mic and pointing at my head.
But it's over your right eye.
So over my right eye, yeah, it's quite... After this, you can come and have an in-depth look at the scar on my forehead.
Take a real close
So what
close-up
happened
look.
was, let's go back to that kind of illegal moonshine vibe, because it was a bit like that. In fact, Adam, that's in the room, Adam was there. So me and Adam went to university together. And we one night, I think it was one of those nights where we were like, oh, should we go out? Should we bother going out? And we ended up going out. We ended up going back to Adam's. Everyone was having a lovely time. It was quite early in the morning. And I went to the toilet and I was excited to get back to the party. And I ran in a corridor that had no lights on. And this was quite an industrial kind of building that they put students in their first year in. And the corners of the walls, they kind of had like a little metal strip running up them.
Ooh, here we go.
Yeah, I ran straight into that. And there was, do you remember that I was saying about when you've drunk enough that the next day you feel even more drunk than when you started, kind of thing? I kind of went into the room I kind of felt like I was aware something had happened, but I didn't really care. And everyone's face was just like, whoa. George,
blood is like going everywhere.
Yeah, there was a lot of blood. And I kind of slept that night, and a friend of mine just wrapped a T-shirt around my head. And then the next day, the college that I was at, there was a masterclass from one of the Ramones was in town. And so I went round to this masterclass, which was brilliant. And my teacher just said, dude, you need to go to A&E. You need to go to hospital. And so I headed round, and they told me that I had left it about 10 hours too late to get stitches, and that I just had to bear it out. So in fact, there's another video that I did on that Bristol couch, and it's about 2 weeks after this happened. So you can see it in all its glory.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Have you ever written a song about the scar on your head?
No.
Okay, and my final question about your scar is like, the school is a very well-known school, I assume. Is it, and you've created quite the name. Is there a sign? George Ezra rammed his head in the wall right
here, like a blue plaque. Yeah, no, I don't know. We'll have to go back and check it out.
There should be,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, George Ezra, of course, hanging out. George, let's do this track, Shotgun. Give me something. Tell me something. Tell me everything you can.
So the trip I was telling you to Barcelona, I don't write the songs while I was there, but I write down everything I do, and I take a note of everyone I meet and everything I see, and then when I get home, that's when I write the songs from everything I've written down. And I spent about a year writing from that one little notebook, and then I kind of delivered what I thought was staying at Tamara's, the album. And the head of my record label was like, I think you've got another song in you. Okay, and they always do this. They always say...
It's like a trick they do?
Yeah, go and write one more, see what happens. And so I went away, and I wrote Shotgun, and as soon as I finished it, it was like, if I couldn't release the whole album and I just had to release one song that summed up my trip, it was this one. It was kind of the song that I'd been trying to write for the whole writing process. And I just instantly, I loved it. And I'll be honest, it was difficult getting the production right. We ended up doing 5 different versions, one a bit more acoustic, and then that wasn't enough. And then we put too much on it, and then we tried to scale it back, and and then we came to the version that everyone hears now, and I just knew that it sounded exactly how it should. And I love it. And it makes me smile as a song. I love performing it. And it reminds me of my time in Barcelona.
Is this the greatest song you have written to date, in your opinion? I mean, you've had some big ones, Budapest, all that, you know.
Yeah. I think it's too soon to say. It's one of those things in hindsight, I'll be able to say. I still feel like I'm in the middle of it all with this song. And also, it's not in my nature to say that kind of thing. But
fair enough.
It's pretty good.
Let's just do it. Here we go. George Ezra, Shotgun. Check this on the iHeartRadio countdown. Dude, here we go. All right, man. All right, guys, we are back. What up? It's JoJo on the radio. This is the iHeartRadio countdown. George Ezra is hanging out. George, I got a 2-parter question for you here.
Hit me.
Biggest crowd you've ever performed for. So that's the high.
Yeah.
Have you ever been booed?
Ooh. Okay, so the biggest crowd I ever played for was when we performed at Glastonbury, the festival back home, and we played on the main stage, and there was about 85,000 people there.
Goodness gracious.
Which was incredible.
You just can't see the end of that. It's just a sea.
You can't, but shall I tell you one thing that you can see? So I stepped on stage, I hadn't even sang the first lyric of the first song, and I saw my ex-girlfriend in the audience.
No!
Yeah, amongst all those people. And I was like, why? Why, of all the people? And she's sweet, like it wasn't like oh no, it was just kind of like, oh God. So that put me on my back foot a little bit.
She must have been fairly close to the front.
She was fairly
right?
close. She was there to support me. It was very sweet that she was there.
Let me just, no names required. Was there a guy next to her? Like, oh, that must be the new guy kind of a thing?
No, worse than that. She was on somene's shoulders. And I was just like, oh, Christ. Oh, okay, here we go.
Well, you know what? At least, if whoever this guy was, you look better. You're on stage.
No, it's not okay. It was all very sweet. It was all good. She would get a ticket to the festival each year by working on a stall that a few of my friends worked at, so I knew she was going to be there.
Gotcha.
How
crazy.
Have I ever been booed? She could well have been booing. I don't know. I wasn't close enough to hear her, individually.
Maybe the dude that was holding her up.
Have I ever been booed? No, but I've definitely received some, not so keen responses. When you're starting out, I just took any gig. In fact, I've never been booed, but there was one gig, and what I kind of said to some local promoters in Bristol, I just said, if ever you need somebody last minute, I'm your man. It was just me and a guitar, and I can't remember his name. An American singer came over to play at a venue called the Louisiana, and it was this venue above a pub. And the best thing about playing the Louisiana was when you got there, the family that owned it always cooked you pasta.
Oh, so nice.
You knew it was a good gig to get. Regardless of anyone turning up, you were getting free dinner. So that was good. And this guy, I'll have to try and dig out his name. He had an amazing song that I loved. And I performed to him, and then he got on stage and performed to me. No one else was there. There was one person behind the bar who kind of just said, well, there's no need for me to be here. And so...
Hang on, you performed first?
Yeah, and no one was there, so he very kindly stuck around to watch me. And then he got on stage, and I was like, oh, I better repay the favour.
Because nobody was there to see either of you, basically?
No one was there, man. The bar staff even disappeared. It was just the most... I must have been at 18 at the time, and it was like, oh, this doesn't look good.
I gotta find out who this... We'll tweet or, Instagram who this is later on. Yeah. But, oh my... What year was this?
I must have been 18 years old, so it must have been 2000 and... I want to say 2013. 12.
Anybody knows who you opened for?
Yeah.
Well, he kind of, whatever you want to call it.
He's got this amazing song, which you won't be able to put on air, but just so it's like, it goes, bullshit, swimming oceans of bullshit love. But it was really good. I loved it. And I think there was a girl that he was on tour with that was there, I think. But on a whole, it was just me and him just there for each other.
George, I have a podcast and I want to get you on it. But it's all about the paranormal.
Ooh.
It's called Paranormal-ish.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And I am curious if you've had any sort of paranormal encounter. And the reason I ask a lot of artists this is because you hit a lot of hotels and you're on the road and creepy joints.
Yeah.
Has anything weird ever happened?
Yeah. There was one, and it happened fairly recently. I'll try and keep it short. It was just a weird... So we got to this hotel, just me and my tour manager in Paris. It's this beautiful, old, ornate building that they've kind of brought back to its original life, and it was beautiful, like chandeliers, and we got shown up to our rooms, and it was like, oh, this is really nice, And then I needed some laundry doing, and I'd never used hotel laundry service before because it was so expensive. And so I rang down, and I just said, oh, can I get some laundry doing? Can you just remind me of the prices? And it was something like £10 for a pair of boxer shorts. So I was like, okay, don't worry, dude. I'm not going to do it. It's fine. I'm better off going to H&M and buying some new pants. So I said, don't worry about it. And then I was in the bathroom in my hotel room, and I stepped out, and there was just this old man in my room who had come in without me hearing. And he was like, I'm here to get your laundry. And I was like, oh, I don't need any laundry doing. And he said, okay, and just left. But the door definitely hadn't opened. I know that sounds, of course it had, because he was in my room. It was just the fact that he was he didn't look like anyone else that worked there. He looked, to put it politely, he should have retired at least 10 years before this incident kind of thing.
So gut feeling, was it a person or was it someone who used to work there years ago?
Or was it the moonshine?
Or was it were you on a serious case of moonshine and you whacked your head on a wall?
Well, so that was like episode 1, and I just kind of brushed it off. I just assumed, he's got like a master key and he's just like a little black cat. He knows how to get in a room without anyone knowing. And then that night I woke up and it sounded like furniture was being moved around the whole hotel, just like all around me. You know, it wasn't noisy neighbors or anything. It was like chests of drawers and sofas and couches being dragged around. And I was like, this is weird. So anyway, I went to bed. I didn't think anything of it. And then in the morning, I met up with my tour manager. He said, man, I couldn't turn this light off in my room. I couldn't turn it off. I rang down and they said, well, I'll send somebody up. We'll send somebody up. And this old guy just came up into his room, grabbed the light bulb and unscrewed it. Right? That's how they turned the light bulb off. So then he was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he woke up and the light was back on. And he had heard all the moving around. Anyway, so we were like over breakfast sharing this story. Neither of us necessarily believe in that kind of thing, but it was particularly weird. And then he Googled it, and it was the Nazi headquarters of France for the whole of the Nazi regime in Paris.
Holy.
And it was that side of the hotel that we were staying in was the original headquarters.
Wow.
And it was just, again, I'm not saying I believe in this kind of thing, but it was just a bit like, oh, let's get out of here. This is a weird place.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. You might, you know what? It sounds crazy. You might have seen something.
I mean, do you know what? I'm going to tell myself I hadn't, because otherwise I'm going to struggle sleeping for a while.
Did you, final question on this. Did you see that little old man walking around after that?
No, I didn't see. I saw him floating around, which was particularly weird.
That's kind of weird too. Oh my God. George, you've done a ton of shows. Everybody makes mistakes. However, I am particularly curious. Have you ever made a noticeable on-stage mistake where the audience went, oh God, oof, that wasn't supposed to happen?
Yeah, I've had to start again on, and I would rather do that. I'd rather just acknowledge, I'd rather people got what they deserve, which is the song the way it's supposed to sound, rather than me make a big mistake and go, oh, so what? You know, so there's been once or twice where there was one time in Italy, and so there's something that guitarists use, I'm sure a lot of you, there's a capo, which just allows you put it on your fretboard. And
like a little clip looking thing?
Yeah, it's a little clip you put on your guitar neck, and it changes where you play the guitar. And I just put it in completely the wrong place. So we started the song and the band started, and I wasn't supposed to come in at the beginning, so I didn't. And then I came in a completely different key guitar, and then tried to kind of sing along to my guitar, but then also try and sing along to what the band were doing. In that case, I stopped and we started again.
I've heard worse. I've heard people sliding off stage, falling off stage.
God, that's the worst.
At least it hadn't happened to you, I guess,
no,
right?
I'm terrified of rolling an ankle, or I would hate that. Not for the embarrassment, for the injury.
Because who wants to be injured? Yeah, there we go. All right, well, George, I'll call that a win for you.
Brilliant.
All right, George, psycho fan encounters. Not that I'm saying your fans are psycho. I'm sure most of them are just lovely people.
I mean, there's one or two.
But yeah, one or two that'll just, give me something that, because I don't even sing, and I've had a few. I know you must have some wild stories.
Yeah, occasionally I'll see on Instagram, there'll be a picture of me from my childhood that I've not even seen, and someone's posting it. And that, I'm like, how do you get this stuff? I don't know. Should I be worried?
How would they get that? Like,
I don't know. I assume that someone's posted it on Facebook years ago when they've done a deep, deep scuba dive, and they found stuff that I don't even know is on the internet. So that kind of thing happens. On a whole, though, everyone's pretty lovely that I encounter. They're very sweet. I had one guy, this is a funny story, actually. So I was backstage at a festival in Germany, and I was just having a drink at this bar, and this guy came over and he was like, oh, do you mind if I run and grab my daughter? She'd love to have a picture with you. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's fine. So he went to go and get her, and then she was going to be a minute. So he came back over, and he looked at me so serious, and he said, I don't know what it is, but my daughter looks at you in a way she's never looked at me before. And I was like, I looked at him as if to say, I don't know if this is like a language thing. I don't know. And all I wanted to say was like, that's probably a good thing, dude. I don't know how she's looking at me, but I assume there's a reason you've not seen that particular look. Yeah. And then she came over. She was very sweet. I just kind of thought that was the weirdest interaction I've ever had.
And how do you respond? I guess that's how you respond. What? Oh,
I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Whoever that guy was, I hope your daughter's doing fine. Good Lord. Have you ever been mistaken for the wrong celebrity, George Ezra?
Yeah. So again, in Italy, right? So they've got a lot to say for themselves. But we were down in Italy. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the singer Tom Odell.
Yes, I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, so he's a British pianist. He's amazing. He's got some brilliant songs, and he very kindly took me out on tour with him at the start of, me starting off. And yeah, he's brilliant. And he also has blonde hair, okay? And then we got to Italy, and they do this thing in Italy a lot where they sell knockoff T-shirts outside. So you're trying to sell your merchandise inside, and they've just got streets full of people selling fake merchandise, which is cool, it's like, okay, whatever. And just the whole street was selling T-shirts with a picture of Tom Odell on that said George Ezra on them, and they were all professionally printed. And the worst thing was, at the time, because I was just starting out, it really dented my kind of ego. I was like, but I wish I'd bought one of every one. Now, at this point, I wish that I'd held on to one of them. I don't know if he'll know that happened. It was so funny.
So all these, God.
But no, the fans wouldn't have been buying them. It was just these kind of knockoff guys that were just doing their best. They'd kind of obviously, I don't know if they emailed someone saying, have you got a picture of George?
That is funny.
I don't know how it works.
Imagine when somebody, if they even cared, when they said, hey, by the way, that's not Tom, that's George. They're like, you printed up how many shirts? 4,000. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, let's just see if they don't know his. Let's just see if they don't know his.
You've had, 2 number one albums. Budapest, number one. Maybe that's, I'm not sure how many other number ones I'm missing there. What happens when an artist hits number one? What changes, if anything?
Very little. So in fact, Budapest never went to number one, but Shotgun did. And so it was my first single number one.
I read that Budapest, are you sure?
Yeah, I think so. I was about to go, maybe not. No, it definitely didn't go to number one.
So we scratch that up then. All right.
No, so Shotgun did, though, this summer in the UK. And you're kind of given a heads up that might happen kind of at Tuesday, Wednesday. It looks like this might happen. So I kind of rang around a few of my friends and I just said, do you want to come for a barbecue? I might have something to celebrate. And I didn't realize how kind of unclear I was being, because I just said I might have something to celebrate. So somebody thought I was getting engaged. One person thought that I was pregnant, that I was going to have a kid. And then we got there and they were like, so what is it? And I was like, oh, well, my single went to number one today. And my friends were like, oh, cool. And then one friend was like, but haven't you had number ones in the past? And I was like, no, I've had number one albums. And they looked at me like, yeah, what's the difference? And I was like, just forget it. It's fine. Have a burger.
I guess rounders. They were more excited for you to have a kid or whatever.
No, I think the reaction would have been the same. If I'd said, I'm having a kid, they'd be like, cool, man.
Give me a burger. Yeah. Hey, is there a difference in having a number one album as opposed to a single?
I think so, yeah.
Which do you treasure the most? I know you love both.
Yeah, I think the reason the single is, to me, that bit bigger. And the album is incredible, but the thing with the album in the UK is you're promoting it before it's out for some time, and you're really trying to drum up. And there's only so many albums released a year, but the single, I don't know, it's just tough competition. And in the UK, a lot of the music in the charts will have kind of features or guest DJs or producers or da-da-da. So it felt like quite an impossible task to get to that number one spot, but we did it.
And of course, Shotgun, you're very close with this song, obviously. Yeah. So, well, congrats on that, man.
Thank you very much.
George, let's do a quick recap. Album, Staying at Tamara's.
There you go.
I said it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Single, Shotgun. Uh-huh. You guys need to get on this. Things we've learned from you: never drink from an unmarked bottle of alcohol a stranger gives you.
Yeah.
Never run through your school. No, where was the party at?
Oh, God, yeah, no, but our halls of residence at university. Yeah, I don't know what that would be the equivalent of in the US, but yeah, just your college flat.
Never run through a dark hallway.
Yeah.
After having a few drinks. Staying at a hotel in Paris. Might see a ghost. Yeah. I still think that's. I think you saw a ghost, man. That was crazy.
The whole thing was just not my favorite of all my experiences. That wasn't my favorite.
You saw a ghost. Goodness gracious. And of course, he's got a scar on his forehead from walking into the wall I'll edit it up again. And of course, you have a scar on your forehead from walking into the wall at your old school.
There you go.
How can you beat these stories? George, you are quite the dude. Thank you for hanging out,
Not
man.
at all. Thank you, JJ. Thank you for having me.
At the end of every interview, fist bump to make it official. Give me a little bam.
There we go.